Hey everyone, and welcome back to the So Rude podcast. My name is Paige Erdeman, and as you can see, we are in a new space today. I am sitting on my couch, which is like literally 3 feet from where I'm normally sitting. Today, we're going to have a more casual conversation, and because of that, I felt like that deserved a casual location. So, for the newer listeners on the show, this is a format that I used in some of my earliest episodes. It was a chance to talk freely away from the more scripted or prepared material. My first 101 shows were not video format, it was just audio. So you didn't get to see the more casual setup situation. However, really these more casual conversations is a chance for me to kind of just talk about what's going on. And to be honest, I needed this type of episode this week. 2024 was a year where I launched back full force and I was striving very hard to release a new episode every single Tuesday and be very consistent. I'm really proud about what I accomplished because I was really consistent and I did release, new episodes. And I know how important being consistent is for that reason. But I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work and I'm a one woman show. So, one of the reasons I really wanted this more casual week is because life has been lifing lately. And some of that includes really surprising and humbling things coming down the pike later this year. And some of that includes just feeling a little bit more tired and burnt out than usual. Now, usually I am really good at bouncing back when I'm feeling low or I feel like life has just been a little bit rough lately. However, between a really busy as heck last year, traveling, a loaded schedule this year, the frigid temperatures that are outside that absolutely just annihilate any type of like motivation or work ethic that I have, and then some personal things that I don't talk about on this podcast, I'm just starting to feel it. And I am struggling a little bit more than normal to ride this one out. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think I'm the only one feeling like this lately. I have heard some sentiments across friends or other people that I know that have also just been like going through it. Like life has decided to make itself known recently, if you catch my drift, because I don't think I'm the only one going through this. And I'm going to even say with some confidence, I know I'm not the only one going through this. It feels like the perfect time for me to reflect on things that have traditionally brought me joy and excitement and happiness and the things that I use to get out of a funk. And by sharing my list, one, it's a brainstorm for myself to be like, okay, Paigey, we need to like get back to doing these things that we know make us happy and whole as a person. And two, I'm hoping that if anyone else is feeling similarly, whether that's currently or maybe you stumble upon this episode in the future, hello, future peeps, some of these approaches might help you too. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Paige, this has nothing to do with music. Like you say, you're a music podcast. You used to do more lifestyle, health, wellness concepts. Like, what are you doing? You're disrupting the flow. And I am going to argue that life throws curveballs to everyone, no matter the industry. Like it just is a part of life. The only thing constant about life is change. And we as a species are literally created to handle conflict. Like if you ever didn't have conflict, I truly think like you as a human, you would cease to exist because that is like the whole point of life. With that said, now that I'm spending more and more time in the music industry, I have never felt like I was riding a roller coaster in any other type of profession in my life. I have worked retail. I have worked in like a food deli. I have worked in an office. I have worked in corporate. I have worked in property management. Like literally, your girl has, I worked at Harley Davidson. I have literally had more random jobs than I think anyone has ever had. It has brought me a lot of life experience, but truly in every single one of those jobs, there were challenges and things to overcome and things to learn and things to grow. But none of them have had the ups and downs that being in music has shown me. Your hopes and your dreams are raised and they're crushed faster than you can blink. And every single time you face one of these challenges, we are expected to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off and keep going. And I know that that is very important. For anyone, it is very important to pick yourself up and dust yourself off and to keep going and, take a moment to like grieve or reflect and then fix it. Because if you don't, then like you're just going to be stuck. But that's hard. It's really hard sometimes to just continue to pick yourself up and dust yourself off. And I've even recently had conversations with people around like relationships and how in the same way, like you're supposed to just pick yourself up and dust yourself off. And so I want this episode to just be like a listening ear for someone else because it's like, this is what I want to hear. Like, I hear you. I recognize that it's tough. I want you to know that it can be tough for you. And if you're looking for solutions, there are things that you can try. It's like all of these things can be true. Here are my basics for when life is lifing. Number one, too much alone time. I am naturally an introvert. I get shy talking to new people, especially if the vibe isn't right. Like if I'm walking up and I'm already getting like gut feelings like, oh no, this is not going to go well, or I'm just not getting good vibes from this person. Yeah, immediately I'm out of the way because that's intimidating and scary. And I have to hype myself up before going into social situations. That includes driving around the block over and over again until I feel confident enough to walk in the door. That includes having pep talks with myself like, okay, Paige, you are going to go. And if you don't like it, you're going to leave. You're not forced to be there. The goal is just to show up. The goal is not how long you're going to be there. So, literally walking in the door, you accomplished your goal. Anything after that is icing on the cake. Looking back on myself, I know I am much more conversational today than I ever was when I was younger. I credit a lot of that to working at a Wawa. I don't know if you guys know what Wawa is. It's like a convenience store, gas station, deli thing originating out of Wawa, Pennsylvania, and it has since stretched to other states down the East Coast. And there's one coming to Tennessee, hopefully in the next year or so. You'll catch me there. But I worked there for many years. But when I first started, I was put on the register, and it's a fast-paced store, and you are forced to talk to a lot of people for 8 hours. And so that really helped me a little bit break out of my shell. And then part of it is just getting older, getting out of situations that are like really crappy high school experiences and middle school experiences and starting to surround myself with people that like me for who I am and appreciate what I bring. And unfortunately, sometimes your hometown, that's not it. If that is your hometown, that's great. I'm happy for you. It wasn't my experience. Anyways, so yes, I know I'm much more talkative than I was when I was younger. However, it took a lot of effort and time to get there. And as an introvert, I need to recharge by myself, laying in my bed or on the couch, reading a book, quietly reflecting on my thoughts. Like, I just need that alone time. However, too much alone time is also draining. So when I'm feeling really low or like I'm in a funk, that's a sign to me like, have you been spending a lot of time alone? Have I been ditching social plans? Have I been finding excuses not to go out of the house? If that's the case, then I need to break that routine. How can I do that? I can get out and go to a coffee shop for a few hours. Even if I'm just sitting in a coffee shop responding to emails the same way I would be at my house, there's something about being around other humans. It could just be me, but when I'm sitting by myself in my quiet apartment and I haven't seen another person in a while, it's just like really isolating. So even though I might not be necessarily talking to someone else at a coffee shop or out of my house, it's just this acknowledgement of like, okay, there's other life forces here. Like you are not by yourself. I just try to find other low-hanging fruit when it comes to social interactions. Like, I might even go to the movies. Again, it's one of those experiences of I'm not necessarily going to the movies to like talk to other moviegoers, but I am putting myself in an environment where there are other people around. Even going to like a bookstore just to walk around, pick up a book off the shelf, sit there and read it. Like, I don't have to necessarily buy the book, but I'm getting this like enjoyable experience by just being out of my house. I think the reason this ties to music so much is because it is such a social and yet individual journey. It is social in the sense that it's about your network and it's about the people that you know and it's about collaboration and it's about building a team and like a building your crew and building your tribe. Like very much so that is the case. And you are technically like when you make money from it, you are an independent contractor, you are an entrepreneur, you work by yourself. So it's different than maybe a friend or a family member of yours that might work in an office or work on a team where, yes, they have their own goals to accomplish, but like at the end of the day, like, they're part of a team. It's a larger group experience. That's really not the case when you work in music, at least from what I'm understanding. Number two, I need to move my body. So I have been in a lot of physical therapy over my life. One of my physical therapists before said this to me about stiff muscles. He said, motion is lotion. You need to move it for it to feel better. And I think that applies to the whole body and not just a weak shoulder or a sore low back. When I'm feeling like I'm literally rotting away in my bed or on my couch, I just need to move. I can start out slow by sitting on the floor, cross-legged and stretching, or laying down and doing some old physical therapy moves. Or if I have more energy than that, I will get up and go for a walk. And over time, I would love to see myself be someone that starts to like take hikes or like do resistance training or like weightlifting. I'm just not there right now, but like would love to see that in the future because I feel a personal mind body connection that when I feel strong physically, I feel strong mentally. I am a big listener of podcasts, and I recently listened to a podcast episode on the Andrew Huberman podcast from a like mobility person, and they do connect the dots between physically moving and being alive. When you start to see people decline, it's because they literally stop moving. I know that when I'm feeling low, my energy is low, my emotions are low, I'm mentally not there doing well, it's time to move. Now, those are things that I'd like to do. You might be a yoga person. You might be a cycling person. You might want to go garden. You might want to go for a run or play pickup football or basketball or volleyball or, a million and one other things. You will know what works for you, but moving in general is just gonna bring more value. And when you find yourself unable to do that, whether you're sore or injured or there's another factor, like I think that also plays a role on the mental component of it. So, especially, I got to give my brother another piece of credit here. So, he came to visit me back in July and he's like, Paige, I got some assumptions to make. And I'm like, okay, hit me. What have you decided? He goes, we were sitting at the Hattie B's on Broadway at Fifth and Broad because he like was like, while I'm in Nashville, I need to try the hot chicken. He also wanted to try it from like every place that had it. I'm like, whatever floats your goat, you know what I mean? But he was like, all those people with bags, those are tourists. And I'm like, I guess I could see that. Like someone who lives here wouldn't necessarily be shopping at Fifth and Broad necessarily. Most likely are going to be people from out of state or out of town. And then he also goes, pale people, y'all are musicians. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you spend all your time indoors. You're indoors playing music. You're indoors writing songs. You're indoors recording music. You're indoors just like hiding from the sun or sleeping off your hangover. Like, literally, you are pale. And if you're pale, you're a creative. So if you're tan, you're a tourist. And that was like his like analogy. And I'm like, you know, you're kind of onto something because yes, we spend all of our times indoors. And this extends to outside of music too, but especially music people. You are sitting writing a song, you're sitting learning a new part. Maybe you're standing, but for the most part, you're not moving. You're kind of like in one place. So, number two, move your body. Number three, sleep. In today's world, it is very common that most people are not getting the recommended amount of sleep. And even if you are laying in your bed for the accurate amount of time, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's quality sleep that you're getting. So, whenever I am feeling more down than normal, I reflect on my sleep patterns. Am I going to bed at a decent time? Am I scrolling on my phone all hours of the night? Am I waking up in the middle of the night and then not going back to bed? If the answer is yes, then I start turning off my phone and charging it in another room, which we should actually all be doing that. I think it would lead to better sleep outcomes in general all of the time, but especially when I'm feeling it, I know just put it in the other room. I don't need it. Like, I'm not using it when I'm asleep, so just put it aside. I also have started this new thing where I set up automatic do not disturb. So now at 10 o'clock at night until 7 a.m. the next day, my phone is on do not disturb. The benefit is that I'm not getting these pings and these notifications popping up. We have all heard about dopamine and how the phones is just ransacking our dopamine and chemical reactions in the brain. If I can quiet that, I'm allowing myself to not be distracted. Yeah, so if you text me after 10 p.m., like I'm not going to see it unless I specifically go to check for it. But it also would encourage us to turn to non-screen activities, reading before bed, a physical book, and not even just a Kindle, or taking a really hot shower, meditating, just something not screen-like. Doing that for not just one day, do it for a while until you start to feel better or feel like you're waking up refreshed. Number four, journaling. Whenever I'm feeling really low, I turn to journaling. It's something that when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a journaler. I tried forever. I would buy journals, every variety, every type of page type. I would buy the things that locked, the things that had spirals, the bound ones, like so many. I'd buy special pens. None of it worked until my sister went to Europe and she was like, well, what do you want? And I was like, well, I would really love a leather wallet. That was like the thing I really wanted. So she was very kind enough to bring me one back, and I still have it to this day. It's beautiful. Like, truly, the craftsmanship of the leather goods is impeccable. But she also brought me this leather bound journal that was a Harry Potter themed one. It was so special. And at that point in time, I was going through some life likes to life for me. I've just accepted it. It's just part of life. But I had a lot going on. I needed to get it out and I was tired of like talking it out, ruminating all up in my head. So I was like, all right, we're going to write it out. And truly that was the moment in time that I've just become a journaler. It's a really great way to express your feelings on paper. You can do it any time of day. There's even moments in time where I'm journaling multiple times a day because that's just where I am at and that's what I need to do with my time. And that's okay. That's you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. Number 5, if journaling is not working, and there's times when, it's not bringing you the relief that you're hoping for, that's when I graduate to talking it out. I might reach out to people in my inner circle who I know I can talk to, like my best friend Brittany or my parents or my sister. These are people that I know are going to be able to listen and help me and be a voice of reason. The worst thing that you can do is when you're feeling like you really need to talk and you reach out to someone and they are one of these people that like you mention something and then they have to immediately make it about themselves. Like I could be like, "Oh no, I just broke my leg. And they're like, you broke your leg. And you're just like, we didn't need that. But yeah, sometimes we just need to have someone to listen and be an ear for us. Or sometimes when we're struggling and going through it, we can adopt a like, I don't want to bother anyone mentality. And it took me a really long time to learn that someone will tell me if they are not in a place to be that for you. It's totally fair if someone is also going through something and they just can't be that. But more often than not, people really enjoy the connection that comes from being leaned on as a support system. And so don't rob your friends of that experience. Like that's how you create true intimacy. And intimacy isn't just like a physical relationship thing. That's also an emotional relationship thing. It's how you build deeper wells with your people. Try it out. And just because you try doesn't mean you have to do it forever or continue to lean on that person in the future. But I think talking it out can have a lot of benefits too. Number six, I am also a big fan of therapy, especially for those of us who are creatives or even individuals who are just more in tune with their emotions. It can be a lot to balance sometimes, and it never hurts to have an outside perspective. The benefit of a therapist is they're trained to be able to help us see things from multiple perspectives or add context or help us maybe derail some like spiraling thoughts. I think this whole episode is maybe even just a love letter to mental health and why I think it's so important that when you are struggling, you can find things that help you. Because my therapist likes to use this expression like, there can be depression with a lowercase d or a capital D. And like, you might take different actions to accomplish each one. I am a big believer in behavioral change first. Not that I don't think the people that benefit from medication or other types of things, like, I think that's fantastic for the people that that brings value to. I am just someone who I truly think that, like, there's a lot that we can do from a behavioral perspective to see improvement. Again, how this relates to music, because this is kind of like a little bit of a departure. The more I talk to people in the music industry and in just people in general, the more I realize like we are a society that is struggling. And the more that we know about resources or ways that we can help ourselves or behaviors that we can engage in, the better our outcomes are going to be at improving our experiences and hopefully being able then to channel that into the work that we do that fills us creatively and gives us a sense of purpose. It's also just a nice little reminder to myself like, hey, things might be a little bit tough right now, but they're going to get better. And I think that's the one thing life has shown us that like it goes in cycles and it goes in waves. Nothing that is great will ever stay, and nothing that is horrible will ever stay. As a species, we are seeking out keeping things at a homeostasis level and like balance. And so, when the waves are high, enjoy them for what they are and know they're not going to stay. And when the waves are low, just remind yourself like these aren't going to stay either. Eventually, the water becomes more even keel. I appreciate you exploring this more casual conversation with me today. For all of my friends that are in music, just know you are not alone. For anyone else that's not in music, that's still experiencing these things, like I hope that some of these suggestions and recommendations are a way for you to find peace for yourself as well and check in on your friends. Don't assume just because like you see things on social media like they're doing great. It doesn't hurt to check in. Just remember, social media is a highlight reel and people only post the good things. And frankly, if someone was only posting the bad things, I think that would also be kind of weird as well. So, don't be afraid to have a personal conversation. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another episode of the So Rude podcast. If you are not already, you can follow me on social media at sorude.podcast on both Instagram and TikTok. I'm also on YouTube at So Rude Podcast, so you can find the show there. If you are not already subscribed to the show, you can do so on whatever platform you're listening to this show on: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. And it really just helps the show continue to grow, lets me know that I'm talking about things that are of interest to you. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I can't wait to chat with you next time. Bye now. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with every episode. See you next time.